Simon Toyne, and I'm joined by my colleague Adam Barnes and by Bruce Winter, a representative of exactEarth, our strategic partner. For those not familiar with Genscape, we are the leading global provider of real-time data and intelligence for commodity and energy markets. We're driven to improve market transparency and efficiency. With thousands of patented monitors strategically deployed worldwide, Genscape is unique in its ability to collect and report proprietary market fundamentals in real or near real time. Genscape VesselTracker provides a real-time vessel tracking, monitoring, reporting, and in-depth ship information to maritime, finance, and information sector professionals. Through the world's largest privately owned land-based AIS receiver network and the most advanced AIS satellite constellation available, we deliver the most accurate and reliable information on global shipping available on the market. Genscape is a member of the Baltic Exchange. Today's webinar, not all AIS providers are the same. Are you sure you're getting the most from your current provider? Is hosted by Adam and Bruce. But just before we start, can I draw your attention to the question box on the right-hand side of your screen, which any questions during the webinar we'll be happy to address right at the end. And with no further ado, I'll be happy to hand over to Adam.
Yeah, thank you, Simon. So I hope you've all seen the agenda set out for today. Ultimately, what we're going to achieve is an explanation of why we see more vessels more of the time. Understanding the confidence in our data so that you have confidence in your trading decisions. Understand why we are the most reliable AIS provider. Understand the expansion from our terrestrial network into remote areas, and the ability to provide the right data in the right format at the right time. As you expect, the demand for the right data in the right format has gathered pace over time, and the demand for ever more detailed and complex queries was answered back in 2009 with the introduction of VesselTracker, who was then acquired by Genscape in 2013. Now, we built up a privately owned AIS network, which enables us to monitor the commercial fleet, but not only their current position, but also their trading patterns. Typically, when we look at the terrestrial AIS, you've got between 30 to 90 nautical miles. Because it's VHF, so you've got line of sight. However, as you may have seen in the press recently, we've extended our strategic alliance with our partners exactEarth, which enables us to give an unprecedented view of the total global fleet from 300 gross tons and above, not only from a terrestrial perspective, but also deep ocean. And by combining our terrestrial network with exactEarth's low orbit satellites, gives us the global view as suggested. Today we're going to focus on the underlying data to address the areas that we highlighted in the agenda. However, you'll be able to see our data through the window here on our online portal as displayed. Fusing satellite and terrestrial AIS is not always enough. It's critical to have a supporting data to filter out unwanted information. And that's why Genscape VesselTracker has built up its own commercial ship characteristics and ownership database, which enables us to cut the AIS data in line with our client's workflow. So what we're looking on the screen here is a sample set of data based on tankers, so filtering out the 100,000 plus vessels that we see every day, just looking at the tanker fleet. And if we look at the red line, which is the satellite AIS, when we fuse that with the terrestrial AIS, we increase the fleet's visibility by 34%, enabling much better business decisions. The same can be said if we look at other ship types like dry bulk. Later on, we're going to share with you the results of an independent analysis carried out by one of the world's largest trading houses, and they compared our Genscape VesselTracker network with that of another AIS provider. With that, I would like to pass over to my colleague Bruce.
Thanks, Adam. I'm going to spend a few minutes today outlining how exactEarth's ground-based satellite processing delivers the maritime picture faster and more comprehensively than any other satellite solution. In 2009, exactEarth was granted a patent that included the unique capability for our ground-based processing solution. It's a solution that gives exactEarth a significant advantage. As demonstrated in the two examples on this slide, exactEarth's proprietary solution can achieve a significantly higher level of vessel detection and messages per vessel than onboard processing, especially in areas where the density is much higher. Based on several comparisons between onboard and ground-based processing, we have seen that it can take as many as 15 to 20 passes from a satellite using onboard processing before it generates a similar picture to one satellite pass using ground-based processing, like the one shown on the right-hand side here. In some regions of the world, like the South China Sea, Gulf of Mexico, or the North Sea, vessel density is so high that satellites using onboard processing will never be able to generate the maritime picture that ground-based processing can. On this slide, we see the speed with which exactEarth is actually capable of generating the maritime picture, referred to as collection latency. With just one satellite pass using ground-based processing, exactEarth was able to detect over 1,400 unique vessels, whereas an entire day of satellite passes using onboard processing was not able to generate the equivalent picture. If we expand on the previous picture and see what happens on subsequent ground-based satellite passes, we can see that the exactEarth vessel detection continues to outpace the onboard satellite processing. Given that exactEarth's exclusive business is satellite AIS, we have spent the past 5 years dedicating significant resources extracting more and more vessel information from our satellite data. This focus persists into next year, where we expect our daily vessel detection to continue to grow by more than 20% thanks to ongoing investment in new assets, ground stations, and satellite processing. The investment I referred to in the previous slide will also result in improved revisit times and very significant decrease in the AIS message latency. That's measured as the time difference between when a vessel transmits an AIS message to when it is sent to our customers. The combination of ground-based processing and low latency gives our customers the most complete vessel picture in the shortest amount of time. Currently, exactEarth has very good satellite revisit times in the northern and southern regions of the globe. And now, as new assets are brought on board over the next year, the equatorial revisit frequency will see substantial improvements as well. Now I'll turn it back over to Adam to go through an independent study that shows just one way how the partnership between exactEarth and Genscape provides an unmatched vessel tracking service.
Thanks, Bruce. So this slide is really interesting to me personally because I've been in the industry for over a decade, and I've worked for other AIS providers as well. So as I said, this is analysis carried out by one of the world's largest trading houses in the world, and we're focusing this slide on the tanker fleet. So they observed just over 11,000 vessels. Of these, 3,478 were not seen by the other AIS provider, whereas only 92 were not seen by VesselTracker. Their research showed that Genscape VesselTracker's combined satellite and terrestrial AIS network detected 99.2% of the total vessels. In comparison with the other AIS provider, that only detected 31% fewer vessels, having only seen 69.1% of the total fleet. Now, we've continued to grow our terrestrial AIS network, listening to our clients of where additional coverage was required. On average, we've grown our terrestrial network by 30%. Now, we've got all the world's largest ports covered. However, our clients had requested coverage in North America, specifically inland waterways. Now, this really posed a challenge for ourselves, because it would take a long time to get that global picture in that region in a quick time that was in line with our clients' expectations. The solution to this challenge was answered by Genscape's senior leadership team, who recently announced the addition of 436 new AIS antennas within the Genscape VesselTracker terrestrial network, connecting the US inland waterways and coastal regions and additional coverage. Outside the continent in Mexico, Canada, Latin America and the Persian Gulf. The AIS network now covers every commercial port in the US and approximately 90% of all US inland waterways. Now, what this slide does for me, it really does support the research that was done. Not only are we providing the best AIS network, but we're also providing the best support, technical support as well. Genscape VesselTracker allows you, the end user, to consume the data for analytical reasons, to enrich your own proprietary information with the Genscape VesselTracker data. So in conclusion, we see more vessels more of the time than any other AIS provider. We have confidence in our data that it is the global picture, which gives you the confidence in your trading decisions. We have the most reliable AIS network out there. We're expanding into the remote areas in line with our clients' workflow, and we have the ability to provide the right data in the right format at the right time. Now, we'd like to give something back to the people who have taken the time to join our webinar. So all attendees are eligible to take up our exclusive offer of complimentary 3-month historical data with any 12-month data set purchased. So again, we said at the beginning, we can cut our data in various ways. So any ship type group from a 12-month subscription, we will add a 3-month historical port call data to that set. As it says here, we store the NMEA data, which some people may not know. NMEA is the raw format of the AIS signal. So what that means is we capture 100% of the AIS movements, which means that we can then provide that information in various formats back to yourself in the format that you require.
Yeah, thank you, Adam and Bruce. We've had a number of questions already, but if I could draw your attention again to the box on the right-hand side, if there's any further questions. So I'm happy to start this off. The first question that we got in actually was, does exactEarth combine their data with any other commercial terrestrial AIS provider? So over to you on that one, Bruce.
No, we don't actually. We have an exclusive agreement right now with VesselTracker, Genscape, and we've done that because really Genscape, they provide a very thorough, robust terrestrial network that is an excellent complement to our satellite coverage.
Okay, I hope that answered that question. It's straightforward. Another question here. I have interest in only a changing group of vessels. Is it possible to demand regular data but on different ships? Adam, if you can address that one.
Yeah, absolutely. So in answer to that question is yes. With the ability of our web service, it gives you, the end user, to swap in and out tonnage in accordance with your business needs. So this month you might be interested in 2,000 vessels. Next month, those 2,000 vessels, you might want to swap out 100 of those, still setting to the 2,000 mark, because we would agree a download limit on a daily or an hourly basis, but we don't mind which vessels they are. So yeah, through the web service gives you the flexibility to swap in and out tonnage.
Okay, thanks, Adam. Actually, this is another one for you, I think. Just contracted with another supplier. Can I test your data to compare?
Yeah, so again, the answer to that is absolutely. We offer free trials to our web service. It's very straightforward for your IT team to consume our data. Again, no obligation. We can open that up for a couple of weeks for you so that you can compare apples with apples, get our data and compare it side by side with what you're currently getting. So the answer, absolutely, happy to assist where we can.
Okay, great. Here's another one. What is the current latency of satellite AIS data? Bruce?
The current latency is approximately about 60 minutes. On average, it certainly varies on time of day and region of the world, and we are looking at getting that latency down to 30 minutes over the next 6 months.
Okay, great. One here. How far back does your data go, and what is the update frequency? Question mark. Adam?
Yeah, so we can provide data historically going back to 2010 as a fused data set. One of the key things that we can do is we'll also put the source of our data as well, so you can identify where that data has actually come from, whether it's from the satellite network or from the terrestrial network. So 2010, recently, for the last sort of 16 months from a terrestrial perspective, is again what I suggested earlier. We now store 100% of the raw NMEA data. So the update frequency really does depend on what the client's needs are. Typically people will take the data either every 15 minutes or every hour, but if you did want to sort of turn on the tap, so to speak, we can stream the raw data to you so that you can consume that. But that is a vast amount of data that you'll be consuming. And again, we can deliver that through various methods, predominantly through web services.
Okay, don't run away, Adam. I've got another one coming in as we speak. Misreporting of ships' destinations, another reported data. How do we deal with it?
Sorry, let me just, so if my understanding is correct, is that the data is not reported correctly. So I guess what you're looking at there is the message 5, which one of the key things that our clients look for. Message 5 looks at ETA and destination. That's one of the areas that we find more often than not people get inaccurate information. Because the way that the message 5 is sent out, it's sent out in 2 different data packets. And one of the areas, especially when the vessel is deep ocean, it's sent out on update frequency about every 6 minutes. So that the satellites on other AIS providers may not capture that because of the way they do the processing, which Bruce alluded to earlier. Now, the way that we work with the exactEarth is all that information is captured so that we don't miss any of that information. So we get a much higher detection rate, especially with message 5, so then we can output that to yourselves.
Okay, thanks. There's another one here. how does your service compare to free services like DDD or others? without mentioning names.
The core difference is the quality of the data. We are a professional organization working alongside professionals. It's that quality of data and reliability of data that our clients look to. So let's just take an example. With some of the free sites, they are hobbyists. So what you'll see is it's put out to a ship spotter. If they go on holiday, they turn off their power, which then will turn off their AIS. Now, you don't know that that station has been turned off. There is no infrastructure on their end to manage and monitor that. So that when you're looking at a certain region, you don't know if there are vessels in that region or that the AIS network that you're looking at has just gone dark. Whereas we work, as I say, with professionals who need to have this information for their own commercial reasons as well. And through our network, we can actually do maintenance as well. If we do see that a station has gone down, we can do technical support remotely to get those stations back online as well. So the level and the confidence of the data when you're working with Genscape VesselTracker is much higher than you would with a free site.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Adam. Another question. What depth of information do we have on cargoes being transported? Specifically, can we tie to the vessel specific cargoes such as jet or fuel, or perhaps even I can answer that one if you don't mind. I mean, it's AIS signals obviously have no information on cargo carried, and I think that's true of all AIS providers. So clearly, it is the holy grail that AIS at the moment cannot answer. So apologies for letting the person down on that one. How does your service compare to the free services? We've covered that. Another one here is our data is P&C. I'm assuming that means confidential. So how does Genscape VesselTracker manage such requests, Adam?
So again, with the access to the web service, we don't see, and we've no interest in seeing which vessels that you're actually calling the data on. So we would agree a download limit. So let's say you're looking at the LNG fleet, about 400 vessels. We would agree from a contractual perspective that every 50 minutes or every hour you can come in and pull down up to 400 vessels. We don't mind which 400 they are. So that's where you get the confidence in the data that we don't see the vessels of interest, we only see the download limits.
Okay, thanks. Here's one for you, Bruce. Is the historical data back to 2010 just mentioned for sale terrestrial only, or does it include exactEarth data?
It actually includes exactEarth data. We started capturing satellite information back in 2010, so any historical that you request that you want to include terrestrial and satellite would include both.
Okay, that's a straightforward answer. Thanks, Bruce. I'm being asked here, you mentioned the combination of the satellites provides more vessels data in dense areas, such as the South China Sea. Do you have specific comparisons for that area? And again, Bruce, can you throw some light on that?
Sure. In the slide that we reviewed today, I would say that it would be, I'll say it's representative of what we would potentially see in the South China Sea. So the three areas that I mentioned are probably the most densely populated areas for vessel traffic, and with the South China Sea probably being the most. So the example that I provided from April 1st of this year, where when we went over the single 18 minutes of our ground-based processing detected over 1,400 ships, and then 1 day's collection of onboard processing only got up to 1,231. That's one example. Whether that is going to be identical to the South China Sea, it would be very similar. Although I would expect that the onboard processing would actually have even more difficulty picking up the individual messages in that area, just given the higher, probably the highest vessel density in the world.
Okay, thanks, Bruce. Here's another question, probably for you, Adam. Is your data available to be bundled with third-party shipping ERP software for end users?
So our data can be fused with all information. So you can put it into any third-party application that you would like it to go into. I think that's what the question was.
Okay, thank you very much. A straightforward one here. How often do the exactEarth satellites orbit? Bruce?
The exactEarth, they take about 90 minutes actually to orbit the Earth once, and so what that means is, depending on what region of the world your area of interest is, that will depend on what your revisit rate, or how often that we see the vessels in your area. And as new assets come on board, what we'll see is much more frequent revisit rates in actually all regions of the world.
Okay, excellent. And the last question, just for you, Bruce, is satellite coverage still being improved, or has your coverage largely been saturated already?
Good question. Short answer is absolutely, it's still being improved. What we're finding, though, is it's less about the number of satellites and more about how we detect the vessels. And so, because we do the processing of our vessel detection on the ground, we are improving that literally month over month. And as we capture the data on the satellites and bring it down to the ground, we're actually finding new ways to detect further vessels that were previously unable to be detected in that data. So not just about putting up more satellites and getting access to additional assets. It's also about taking the data and using it, scrubbing the data more rigorously to actually garner more vessel detections.
Well, that sounds terrific. Thanks, Bruce. Well, actually, we're kind of running out of time here. I do apologize if you have posed a question we've not been able to get back to you. I'm sure we can get back to you straight after this webinar, and I'm assured we will. So with that,